Welcome everyone, and thank you for attending this Lunch and Learn organised in collaboration between the Knowledge and Library Services at NCIC and Boost, the North East and North Cumbria Learning and Improvement Community. My name is Ashley Eaton and I'm from Boost, and today we are joined by Dr Clarissa Giebel, who's Senior Research Fellow at the University of Liverpool and the NIHR Applied Research Collaboration in the Northwest Coast. And Clarissa is leading research on health inequalities in dementia, and she's going to be presenting to us how they co-produced a board game to educate about dementia inequalities. So these lunch and learn sessions are designed to be a relaxed and formal space for health and social care staff to come together and share their experiences. And just before we kick off, just some very quick protocols. If you could have your webcams off, please, during the session, that'd be much appreciated. You can pop them back on when we get to the Q&A at the end. Please mute yourself when not speaking. Post any questions that you have in the chat, and we'll also make sure we have some time for questions at the end. Listen with respect and be present, and please pass on, share the learning, spread the word about these sessions, and finally, please be aware that we are recording. So what I will do now is I will hand over to Clarissa. Over to you.
Great, thank you so much for inviting me. I will just do a quick share of my slides now. Just bear with me. Right. Can I check, do you see the full screen or do you see the black screen with different slides?
We've got the full screen, Clarissa.
Excellent, super. So thank you very much for the introduction. My name is Clarissa Giebel. I lead the Dementia Research Group at the University of Liverpool, looking at health inequalities in diagnosis and care. And today I will talk about something different to what we normally do. It's just talk about a game that we designed, a board game, and that we're currently evaluating to see how it impacts on knowledge about dementia and inequalities in all sorts of professionals, carers, children, etc. So some of you may or may not be familiar with this report that was published last year from the Office of Health Economics and the Alzheimer's Society, which found that there are over 110 inequalities in dementia, both for the diagnosis and the care pathways. They highlighted particularly reduced diagnosis rates in rural areas and a lot of challenges that the unpaid carers, so that's families and friends, are facing, particularly relating to gender. So most unpaid carers are women, so they face particular challenges. Also in terms of having to quit employment, there are a lot of challenges with the healthcare system infrastructure, for example. And they highlighted again that many unpaid carers have to quit working as a result of caring. Now, this is a report that myself and some other researchers in the field were consulted on as well, which was really good to be a part of. But what are inequalities in dementia? Now, you see here a selection of factors specifically for dementia that can influence people with dementias, but also their carers' outcomes in terms of receiving a timely and a correct diagnosis. It's not only about getting a diagnosis, but getting the right subtype diagnosis and getting the right care after the diagnosis has been made. So these factors are accumulated through research, not just in the UK, also across Europe and the US and other countries. They have emerged over years and years of speaking to people with the condition, carers, health and social care professionals, charities such as the Alzheimer's Society or Dementia UK, which is what we do a lot in our research. We consult people a lot. So for example, we have postcode lottery, so where someone lives within a city, that can determine whether they get post-diagnostic support groups after a diagnosis or not. The key factors that are always evident in inequalities are, for example, gender and education, and they do play a huge role in dementia as well. It's if someone is living alone with dementia, they face increased barriers to getting access to care, access to diagnosis. But also, one thing I want to highlight here is the rare dementia subtypes. So as opposed to the more common form of Alzheimer's disease dementia, which can be more easily diagnosed, people with a suspected diagnosis of Lewy body dementia or, say, vascular or frontotemporal, they can really struggle going through the diagnosis and afterwards getting care. This is a selection. None of them are more important than the other. And what's really important to mention is that they intersect. So it's not necessarily only if you're from a minority ethnic backgrounds that completely determines your diagnosis and care. That can oftentimes be linked to where you live, to your levels of education, to your socioeconomic background. So what we are trying to do in our group and with a European task force is we try and find solutions for these intersections of factors. And to try and map this a little bit clearer, last year I published together with, based on a lot of consultation with carers and people with the condition and charities, a model based on the Dahlgren and Whitehead rainbow model of inequalities. So you may be familiar with this model from the early 90s that came out of the University of Liverpool by Dahlgren and Whitehead. It layered the different factors that can lead to inequalities on more individual levels, on more social levels, and on more society and infrastructure. Now, that is for generic health inequalities for the general population. But as you have seen on the slide before, people with dementia and their families and friends face different types of factors that can cause inequalities. So, for example, if we look at the social and community network side of things here, there's a lot of stigma surrounding dementia, which leads people oftentimes to not even approach their GP if they have suspected memory problems or motor difficulties, speech and language difficulties, etc. But the thing that we're particularly focusing on at the moment as well is the society and infrastructure level, and the fact that it appears from research and consultation work that health and social care systems don't seem to be well connected for people with dementia. Now, that's the case for many population groups, but particularly in our case, we know this about dementia neurodegeneration. So where someone receives a diagnosis within a healthcare setting, they are rarely ever linked up to social care support. How do they receive a social care needs assessment? How do carers find out about all the legalities of caring for someone, the financial aspects, etc.? Or if someone is in a hospital, how is that then linked up to just getting easier access to social care beds afterwards in the community? So there are lots of these issues, including lack of knowledge within the workforce. And this lack of knowledge within the health and social care workforce, not everyone obviously, but there seems to be a trend, made us think, should we do something that isn't just a seminar or a training course, but something that's engaging for people, for anyone who wants to find out more about dementia and the inequalities, by coming together. Now, we were fortunate to receive some funding from the Wellcome Trust at the end of 2022 now. And we thought, we have no idea how to go about this, but we would love to put the scientific knowledge and the knowledge we've gathered from speaking to people throughout to translate that somehow into a game, into a board game and not an app, because we want people to sit down together, talk, engage, socialize, and learn. So here you see our team members, including 2 unpaid carers, Jackie and Hilary. So what we've done is, over a series of a few months, we've hosted 4 co-production workshops, 2 of them remote, 2 of them in person, with 40 people with dementia, carers, care providers, charities, and a couple of academics to provide some extra academic knowledge as well. It was very interesting. So it was literally, we asked people about what are your experiences of inequalities of dementia? And then how would you even think about coming up with a game? So these series of workshops led to ever more refined versions or ideas of a game, with which we then consulted a board game company, Focus Games, to help us really conceptualize the game and think about the different aspects of a game. So here you see the actual board. So some thoughts, for example, that emerged from the co-production was that they were very keen on having the board split into 2 halves, looking at both pre-diagnosis and post-diagnosis, because experiences and inequalities can differ. And if you look on the board game there, so you can play this between 2 and 6 players. It lasts a maximum of 1 hour, not longer, usually a bit shorter than that. And it's based on the snakes and ladders approach. So if you're with your little figure, come on, roll the dice and come on one of those inequality scales here, you pick up a card that, for example, says you are 54 years old and your GP does not recognize that you might have dementia. So you are not, referred onwards. Take 2 steps back. Or you come on one, for example, here in the post-diagnostic half, that says you have an unpaid carer who knows how to navigate the system. Take 3 steps forward. You can also come across a question, so general question and activity fields. In that case, if you come on one of your opponent players will pick up a card and ask you a general knowledge question about dementia. For example, name some of the risk factors, or preventable risk factors of dementia, or how many people live with dementia across the globe. When should you get a power of attorney? All sorts of different things. This was launched in September 23 in World Alzheimer's Month, and this is being sold via the Lewy Body Society, one of the charities. So all profits go back to charity and to further workshops to speak to people, to consult people with dementia about their experiences. Yes, so I'm happy to share the link afterwards as well, if that's of interest. So if you want to find out a little bit more about the actual process of how we develop this game, because this is the only game on dementia that you can purchase. We only found 2 studies in the past 15-ish years that have developed some sort of games, but they aren't available for sale. They were very specific to a small, tiny project in a care home and only relevant to those care home residents. So they don't have any replicability. This is the only game that's out there. It was a huge learning curve for us and very exciting. So what we've done since, in the past academic year, we have, thanks to the help of a lot of lecturers and senior lecturers at the University of Liverpool, we have hosted gameplay workshops with students in radiography, nursing, psychology, occupational therapy, physiotherapy, and orthoptics. And over 300 students have taken part, which is fantastic. They played the game during teaching sessions, and we gave them a brief before and after questionnaire, just to check, have you learned something about dementia? Have you learned something about inequalities? And they did. So here you see a little breakdown of the participants, how many took part. a lot of students in nursing, which was fantastic. And we found that playing the game significantly improved knowledge in students, both on dementia, but also about inequalities. So we've just had our paper accepted just before Christmas, which is exciting. And based on this, not just because we can improve knowledge by gameplay, which is fantastic, but also it was received very well by the students. So after the sessions, the lecturers and module leads oftentimes held another hour to just talk about dementia. What are your questions? To really engage the students about it. So based on this success just at University of Liverpool, we've now been approached and reached out to many more other UK universities in England, Wales, and Northern Ireland specifically at this point. And we are now in this academic year rolling out this module of teaching sessions with the game across those universities, across different courses. There's also courses on family law, for example. So it's very exciting. And when we developed the game or had the idea of wanting to do a game, we never contemplated that it could lead to, this rollout, but also for people to really wanting to engage with this game and learn more about dementia this way. So for us, it's really exciting to see this. This is not all of it. There are many strands to branching out further with this game. So currently, we are running a series of country adaptations in Ireland, Germany, Portugal, and I'm in talks with Australia and Canada as well, because whilst the language might be the same in Australia and Canada, for example, there are certain questions or systems in place for dementia that are very different in those countries that will need to be adapted. But what we're doing is we're using the same board. We're just changing the cards basically and changing the language where required. And in each of those countries, it's one university that we're working with in collaboration with the National Alzheimer's Association, so a national charity on dementia, because again, in each of those countries, we want the profits to go back to charity and more outreach work for dementia. So we're doing the teaching rollout. We've just submitted some funding to go into care homes in Scotland as well with Enrich together. So we really want to see now as a next step, how can using this approach of a game workshop improve knowledge in the health and social care workforce. We've been to the Merseyside police force, we've been to the fire department as well. So we've done some really cool outreach work with this game, improving knowledge. And we've now received funding a few weeks ago to adapt this adult version of the game to children aged 7 to 11. And then we will actually produce the kids versions and also sell them via the Lewy Body Society. Very challenging, very different approach. But yeah, it's a way of learning about dementia in a different format. And if you've had the chance to play the game or not yet, I'm sure you will with your trust. But I'm open to any questions if you have any. And that's our team.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Clarissa. So yeah, feel free to pop your cameras back on, come off mute if you've got any questions, or pop them in the chat for Clarissa. That would be great. Clarissa, there's so much research now around how effective gamification actually is on learning. So it's great to see that being applied to obviously, gaining that knowledge on dementia and things like that. Apologies if I missed it, is there like an optimum number of people that need to play the game?
So we said between 2 and 6 players,
Okay.
but those players can be in teams as well. So it doesn't have to be 6 individual ones.
Okay. Fab. Brilliant. That's good. And I was going to ask you if it was in care homes, but obviously you then said at the end there that it's going to be used in care homes in Scotland, which is great. Hopefully in England as well, it would be really good for it to be used 100%. So brilliant, thank you. Any questions for Clarissa? We could have the link, Clarissa, as to how to buy one of the board games as well. That would be really good. We have got one up for grabs as well, and I'll explain that shortly. But we'll just see if anybody got any questions at all for Clarissa.
Share the link about the game in the chat.
Perfect. Thank you very much. No, I don't think anybody's got any questions. Must have been so comprehensive, Clarissa. There you go. So, okay, so thank you ever so much then, Clarissa, for coming along. As I say, oh, Amy's just messaged to say, Jackie in the chat. I can't see Jackie's question in the chat, Amy. It's not come through for me.
Oh, let me just read that out then. So Jackie has asked, will this be coming over? Is that potentially to the northeast? Jackie, I don't know if you want to unmute
sorry,
yourself.
it was I was a typing error. It meant over to the northeast, yes.
Well, we don't have funding to travel. You know, we are based in the Northwest Coast with our applied research collaboration, so we go and approach our members and our public organisations within that patch. But for the Scottish care home rollout, for example, we've applied for funding to go and visit care homes in Scotland. So yeah,
we're looking to do some funding in Sunderland, some research in Sunderland around dementia and carers, because we've got an army of aging well ambassadors in Sunderland, and they're all local people over the age of 50, and we really want to understand what it is that they want to know about. So we've asked them, rather than us sit in a room and say, like, let's research this, and what's coming out really clear is around carers, you know, and how they are left on their own once the diagnosis. And I think for me, it's not just you get the diagnosis and then you are left, but then when it becomes more serious, you don't know what to do. So I'll speak with the professor that I'm working with and tell her about the board game. I may even purchase one as well, because I'm really interested in dementia and the inequalities in it, you know, because I do work in public health. So that's really interesting. Thank you very much.
thank you.
Thanks, Jackie. So as I said, there is an opportunity to win a dementia inequalities board game. So if you think your team would find this useful, if you send us an email at info@boost.org.uk, let us know how you think the game would benefit your team or your service, and we'll enter you into our prize draw. We are going to close it this Friday, 17th of January at 12 noon. But yeah, so yeah, please send that through. As I said, we can enter you into the prize draw to
What was
win
that
one.
email? Oh, there it is. Put it in there.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Amy's just popped it in the chat box for me. That's come through. But anyway, never mind. Is there any other questions from anybody for Clarissa?
It was just to say thank you. I'm part of the Memory and Later Life service over in West Cumbria. So we work, well, we're called Later Life, but we're actually getting a lot of diagnosis of people in the early 50s as well. So yeah, so this will be really exciting. So thank you.
Yep.
So our next Lunch and Learn session is going to be on the 30th of January at 1 o'clock. And we are going to be joined by the British Sign Language Health Navigators, and they're going to be discussing some of the issues affecting their users in terms of accessing healthcare services, the challenges for staff as well, and what can help with that. So we hope to see you there. And then once again, thank you so much to Clarissa, and I hope everybody enjoys the rest of their day. Take care, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.